Okay, so buddy, I did send some details over to you, and I know that you had a look at it, and it was that incident, an encounter that Peter Cowry, yeah, spelled Khoury. I think it's Cowry, but from Lebanon. And he
Mhm.
talked. Now, do you remember when we went back? A couple of times back when we were talking, we brought up the discussion about altering the how a phenomenon can alter the reality that we perceive at the time of experience. I've
Mhm.
heard a case from Switzerland where these entities appeared in a bedroom of two boys, yeah,
Mhm.
and there was no door in the bedroom to escape from. It was just wall. Yeah. And it was not the father, it was an uncle who was telling me about them, about his two nephews. And I thought,
Mhm.
what, there were no door? Well, obviously there's a door there, but they couldn't see a door, so they got rid of the escape process out of these young lads' minds. As there is no door, there is no escape, don't even bother, sort of a thing. And I thought, yeah, and that got me to thinking about reality altering during the actual experience. And then we talked about Oz factor, didn't we? And we're saying, look, people are going down roads, busy high street, people, cars around, they see this strange object in the sky, and then all of a sudden, there's no cars, there's no people, and they have this experience, this encounter. And then suddenly, they're back on the high street, there's people and cars around as if it never happened. They do account for some times of missing time, of course, during these incidents, but often don't remember much afterward. But it's as if, like, if there is levels of multiple realities. Now, what is interesting is, that when we brought into the effect of the double slit experiment, the dual slit experiment, they did like not only two dual slit, they did three, four, five, six, seven, and they kept going on and on and on. But they realized through the process of multiple slits that the process concludes kind of that there is multiple realities. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, if that is the case, then I wonder if NHI are just taking you from this level to that level, the nearest one to it. I thought it was a bit strange. I'm thinking to
Mhm.
myself, okay, so they just pluck you out of your reality you're in and just take you to the next one. It pretty much looks identical,
Mhm.
but with slight little differences. Yeah,
Mhm.
such as there's no people, there's no cars, there's just you and me. So, you know. And I thought to myself, okay, that's really interesting. The Oz encounter type experiences is kind of another thing referring to altered reality during experiences. It's also things been termed umbrella perception as well, about there's an umbrella of strange perception that you'll experience over it. Just nicknames for different researchers have used the same thing.
Mhm.
When we were looking at this Peter Cowry, I think his name is, he talks about an experience when he was younger, and he's a young lad. He's in Lebanon growing up with his cousins and friends. And he's a young lad, and they go out playing, and they play on a flat rooftop of a very large building. And it's only one level up, but the process is you run up these stairs, and there's this big heavy metal door, and it's got these big springs. You push the door open, but the process is someone's always got to kind of hold the door a bit because it just slams shut very hard.
Mhm.
But he noticed that he was the last one going up the stairs, looking at his friends. They're going through this door. First weird thing he notices, the door stays open. Come through, come through. It's like it's not closing. It's got
Mhm.
heavy springs on. So he was last because he was waiting for his younger cousin, and of course he was the last person out. But there was a bit of a delay between the bunch of kids and him. He
Mhm.
gets through this door, and he goes up on top of this roof, and they're just frozen. The kids are like total mannequins.
And then as I look in front of me, I noticed that all my cousins, well, there was three of my cousins and about four of my friends, and or our friends, and they were all frozen like mannequins, as if halfway through their step or movement, they just froze, and wherever their hands were wherever their leg, knee was raised or something, they're frozen in that position. And I thought it was a game, and I thought I'm the last one up the stairs, so obviously I'm in. They're playing a joke on me, so I'm walking around, and they're still, like, no movement whatsoever.
And he's like, is this a game or something? Is this some type of strange game? And I'm the one that has to, I don't know. So he goes up to them and he's looking at them. He's looking in their eyes, and they're not flinching. He reaches out, he's tickling them, prodding them, and nothing. They're like frozen.
And I thought, okay, I started to tickle them around the waist, tickle them around on the throat, on the neck area and that. And what I was looking for was, obviously they're going to smile. They're going to, you see the creases in the eyes, the crow's feet or whatever. You see movement, you see a glitter in someone's eye. Like when I'm looking at you, I can see life in your eye. When I was looking at them, it was blank. It was just honestly like looking at a mannequin, just nothing, no movement. No, I couldn't even see them breathing. Couldn't see any glitter in their eye or anything. And I probably went to 3 or 4 of them, and I couldn't get a reaction. And I thought, okay, 1 or 2 might be good at it, holding it, not ticklish, but one of them has to be very ticklish, and no response. So there was a older kid. His name was George. George Fadous was my brother-in-law's family name. And he was probably 3 years older than us. And I walked up to him, and he was taller than us, obviously. And I tickled him, and I got nothing. And then as I went to tickle him under the throat, I had to look up to reach up to tickle him. And as I looked up, I saw about 30. I'm pretty good with measurements because I was in the building game. Probably 30 meters above us was an object. And now these days, I'm hearing a lot about egg-shaped objects, where back then, when I first got into the UFO field and started researching that, I hardly heard anybody talk. Maybe Officer Samora saw one landed in a desert, and he saw
there's like a few cases in France as well. There's like here and there a few little,
very rare though. And I looked up and I saw an egg-shaped object big as my neighbor, the house that we were playing on their roof. They used to have a VW Bug, Volkswagen, and I'd compare the shape and size to it, the size at least, and it was the perfectly shaped egg, silver, and it had a massive windscreen on the front of it that was darkly tinted.
Large screen, 2 occupants sat in there, which were clearly, apparently not human looking. And he was like round a bit away, still on the rooftop, but he's looking at this thing, and this beings, this is his impression. It's like one's looking at the other and looking at him going like this, and he got this impression like, how they're thinking, why is he not affected? Why these and not him? But of course, maybe they did something just prior to him coming through the door, because he was the last one, and he didn't get caught in this, whatever it was. Now, I said to you before, sometimes I wonder if they can just literally go, pause, go about the business, play. And we've been none the wiser, completely none the wiser. Well, isn't this just a perfect scenario, right? So this goes on for quite some time. But then he starts to really, he doesn't recount for time himself, but he doesn't remember being frozen. But unless they did get him,
Right.
I guess they did a double zap and got him as well. I do not know. But next minute, they're like moving around, and there's some confusion, not knowing what really has happened and stuff, no recollection of anything. But next minute, the parents are kicking off. They see the kids, they're shouting at the kids, where have you been? You've been gone for over 2.5 hours. And there were kids who were saying to the parents, well, we've been playing up here. And of course, the parents were slapping the back of the legs. Tell us the truth, stop lying. We've already been up here on the roof and you weren't here. Where did the kids go then? Obviously, they weren't there. Said, we've been up here a few times. You weren't here. You're lying. They didn't believe the kids. And I thought, well, that is really strange, because I'm thinking, okay, so they pause. You're frozen. They go about the business. You put back, unfrozen. Yeah, take the pause off, into play, and you kind of just picking up 2.5 hours later with no recollection as to what's happened. So how many incidents could be happening like that? Because when we do our work, and you doing your work and the research, we can only go off those which are recalling the events or evidence of
Mm-hmm.
it. What
Mm-hmm.
about all the ones that might be that people have no idea that these little glitches could be happening?
Mm-hmm.
And you may have had an encounter, you may have seen something, but it's not there. It's completely gone. And next minute, all the only thing you've got is, I'm sure it was, how can it be an hour late? That's a bit strange. And it's left. It's marked as one of those things, which you could write a
Mm-hmm.
whole book on, one of those things. How many
Mm-hmm.
people have got out there one of those things when it comes to time? They could take for 15 minutes. Would you notice 15 minutes missing if you were driving down a motorway? No. If you're
Yeah.
driving down a freeway, a busy freeway, 15-minute lost? No, you wouldn't. And it starts to, I'm thinking to myself, okay, people do have experiences. Some might remember them, but I think that there's maybe a lot that aren't recalling them. I mean, if we talk about Rey Hernandez, he's wrote a
Mm-hmm.
number of books on my shelf here, Beyond
Mm-hmm.
UFOs, Reality, A Greater Reality, and that sort of stuff. He is an academic. He's kind of a lawyer type guy. He's sat on the freeway, never had an experience like this. All of a sudden, he's not in his car. He's in some type of craft or something. It's like a big Ferris wheel. And he is inside it. And he says, this is how he says it. I see all these images. And all I'm seeing is archetypes. And they're all changing.
Mm-hmm.
It's this alien, it's this alien, it's this alien, it's a Bigfoot, it's a dogman, it's this, that. And it's rotating around as if he's getting a glimpse of the shelf of archetypes that are being
Yeah.
utilized by the phenomena. I can't understand what the hell that. But since that experience, his life literally exploded into paranormality with strange occurrences, UFOs, paranormal, all that sort of stuff. So I thought to myself, okay, this is interesting. So I wanted to check out this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Totally legit. But later on in life, this is where it starts getting really interesting. Later on in life, that it was that childhood experience that led him into all sorts of things: UFO encounters, visitors, bedroom visitations, non-human intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
One of these entities that turns up on one occasion, because sometimes they've been in pairs and stuff. This one was described as completely white skin, female, blue eyes, but the hair was almost transparent white. It was white, but almost transparent. And it interacted with him in his bedroom, and he doesn't really want to get into it too much as to what went on. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
paralysis was involved, but hair samples are left. Exactly. That's what I thought. Oh, nice to have a bit of evidence. So the hair samples are taken for analysis. So the guy did the analysis. Dr. Horace Drew conducted
Mm-hmm.
the and very in-depth analysis on this hair. The hair sample. Remember what I said to you? I really just hope we can find some evidence somewhere, no matter what happens in regarding UFOs and NHI, that there's some evidence left behind and we can say that's got to be extraterrestrial. But we never do, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
alien implants, you know, even if it's, oh, well, the metamaterials from UFOs. Again, the hair analysis, profound Mongolian and Tibetan DNA. Now, to have transparent white hair
Mm-hmm.
is just one in billions with a Mongolian Tibetan. In other words, it's Mongolian Tibetan, maybe Mongolian father, Tibetan woman, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But weird. Goes one further. He started looking at the genes, yeah, because they're getting into the DNA now. And they found something called the CCR5. Now, the CCR5 is a protein, and it's a particular gene that
Mm-hmm.
is associated to immunity. Okay. Now, the CCR5 protein gene, it was deleted out of this DNA. It didn't exist. It exists in you and me and probably every other human, but it didn't exist. In other words, whatever this archetype was, it had pure immunity to anything. Now, the only way you're going to get that, as he said, is zero chance. He put it through statistics. It's
Mm-hmm.
zero chance that you've got Mongolian, Tibetan, the white, almost see-through hair. They had to put a light over the hair sometimes to see the damn thing. It's almost transparent. But to find that in that type of individual is billions to one anyway. But then when
Mm-hmm.
you add the CCR5 deletion, which means that they've whatever this thing had pure immunity is zero chance, as you said, and indicates hybridization, indicates something which is genetically created to have non-effects, have no effects to earthly origin of illnesses, diseases, you name it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like if we could find that and create that in humans, we'd be immune from anything. We won't need a national health service half the time, you know. We wouldn't need to be able to pay for medical things, you know, because it just would wipe all that problem out. So something has created pure immunity, if that is the case, according to the must be a purpose deletion of the CCR5 protein gene, completely
Mm-hmm.
deleted, which means it's about immunity. Now, when you talk about that sort of stuff, and I was thinking, yeah, it's all about if we had that, that would be really good. When you talk about, when I was in discussions, heavy discussions with Daryl Sims, the
Mm-hmm.
researcher, and I was talking about implants and things like that. So there are variations. Some of them are meteoric, some of them are metal, some of them are biological. They break down. So there's variations of them, but they tend to be doing something more than just, it's not just a tag. Because I said to him, so is this just tagging individuals? He said, no, Steve, this is far, far more doing things with the DNA,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of stuff. He said, it is just not a tagging device as we would expect. Because people have said, oh, well, if we were aliens, we would go and tag a buffalo and this. They're not
Right.
tags. This is far, far more going on. But what he said, where the interest lies in the military with alien implants, is not the implant. It's not what even the implant's made of. It's the skin
Mm-hmm.
surrounding the implant because it causes your body to totally ignore the implant that's inside you. The body does not see it. The body does not react to it. It doesn't go to the defense with antibodies attacking it. It's
Mm-hmm.
invisible to the body. And that's because of what the skin is. The skin is providing something which blends with your body and hides it and masks itself to your body. Everybody's body is different. This thing,
Mm-hmm.
when it goes in, it must change its aspect to you and your
Mm-hmm.
biologics because of different blood, different people from all over the different world. It's basically hiding itself so the body doesn't see it or reacts. Therefore, no itchiness, no soreness, no infection. It's just invisible to the body.
Mm-hmm.
Government want to know what is that skin because if they can get hold of that skin and
Mm-hmm.
manufacture it, there would be nobody on the planet which will refuse a donation, an arm, a liver, a kidney, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then nobody would fail. They'd be perfect match. And that was a massive thing for them, which he said the military are really interested in that. That's what they're interested in. Now, why are they not interested in the materials of it? Well, according to the statistics, materials were very similar to the UFO materials,
Mm-hmm.
metamaterial stuff. It's basically the same stuff, pretty much. And I thought, well, it's just like taking a little pinch of the UFO and putting it in you. It's basically
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the same stuff. It's inside. And I thought to myself, this is starting to get very interesting about the genetics and stuff and how it's, you talk about immunity, you talk about how these things hide and they are designed to purposely fit to the body and change their
Mm-hmm.
aspect to become invisible to the body. And if you have no physical or such you say, no physical marks, because apparently There doesn't seem to be physical marks sometimes, yet these seem to be in the body. Now, how did it get in the body, Nathan? Yeah, that has got to be without physical wound or anything. It's like a materialization. If it's not an apport of some sort, it's been apported into the
There we
body.
go. There we
It's,
go.
there's no physical
Has to be.
mark, And sometimes these
Yeah.
implants are in places where it couldn't have traveled from one place to another, because some of them do apparently move around the body. But this sometimes they're in your kneecap, and you
Hmm.
think to yourself, well, it's not moved. It's always been there. It couldn't have got there from anywhere else in the body. And yet there's no scar, no mark, no cuts. How's it get in?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's identical to a newspaper being inside of the wall when nobody broke through the wall to place the newspaper into it.
Exactly. We are
It
seeing the
just,
mechanism
yeah,
again, aren't we?
yeah, yeah,
The very
absolutely.
same mechanisms in implant these implants which are put into people's body, the process of how it gets in there. Now, of course, these people have said, oh, well, they've stuck things up their nose and stuff. Fair enough. But then most
Hmm.
implants aren't. And because what happened was everybody was having it thrusted up the nose during the 80s and 90s. But then I think they got a bit wise to it and thought, okay, well,
Hmm.
we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to stick them in your leg, going to stick them under your thumb, stick them in your hand or the back of your neck or wherever. But
Hmm.
sometimes and now they tend to be on the back of the body more. Why? Well, what's the chance of you seeing it?
Right.
You're not going to see
It's
it it's like evasive measures
Yeah,
moving.
it evolves in order to evade. It
Exactly.
evolves in order to evade.
Yeah. So when I'm listening to this guy, this Peter talk, and I'm thinking, this is interesting. Now he's got the actual report. Now I thought, okay, has he got the hair? Has he got the report? Has he got
Hmm.
the analysis? Yes, yes, and yes. He's got it all. And I'm thinking, well, you're lucky,
Yeah,
because I'm surprised that he managed to get that back from the doctors who did the analysis, the specialists. But he got it because it was kept in a safe and it's been given to him and he's got it. And he's put the DNA report out about it. And I was looking at it and I'm thinking, this is pretty profound. I don't, even if it was,
absolutely.
it's definitely human, but it's so weird. I don't know actually what it could be, to be honest. It's a mystery. So I thought, okay, interesting. So when you talk about hair, because hair pops up time and time again in regarding
Hmm.
UFOs, if you type UFOs and hair, you're going to get angel hair. Okay, mysterious
Hmm.
fabrics that fall from the sky regarding UFOs, but they dematerialize very, very
Hmm.
quickly on contact. So if you see it and you pick some up, and it'll just disappear in your hand. Now, where have you heard that before?
Yeah, you know where I'm going. Richard Banderick, metamaterials. If it wasn't made for
Exactly.
you, it dissolved into nothing,
Yep.
which makes me believe, and this is something I've been talking about in my recent interviews, makes me believe that at least some of these, just throwing this out there, could be constructs in and of themselves,
Yes.
to
Could
where
easily
they're
be.
not
Yes.
real. They
No.
appear real. They'll feel real. Until what, Bud Hopkins? Until they aren't
Yeah.
real.
Now, it's what is
It's
interesting is that
fascinating.
there has been some analysis, but you can't touch it. You've got to get a little bit of
Yeah,
glass. You cannot have physical contact with this thing. As soon as you make physical contact, it's going to go. It's going to
totally.
disappear. You have to get a piece of glass and get a little bit and put it against another glass and trap it in the glass, like put it under a petri dish and start doing analysis. They found, I mean, one of the best cases in the world was from 1954 in Florence. Imagine, big football match, hundreds of thousands of people at this match. It's full stadium. They're
Hmm.
all there, all the fans have watched, they're playing football, the fans are all there. Two of them objects. Now, when you see stuff around on the internet, you're going to support like flying saucers. They weren't flying saucers, they were egg shaped. Two egg shaped
Hmm.
objects fly over and disperse this stuff all over the stadium. Everybody's watching the damn things. It literally brought the
Hmm.
match to a halt because all the footballers are like, what the hell's going on? I just stopped, and it literally brought it to a halt temporarily. It drops all this substance all over the place. You realize nobody can pick it up. It just disappears. Don't touch it, it'll disappear. Nobody, not a single person was able to actually make physical contact with the actual hair.
Hmm.
Scientists, though, like I said, utilizing glass, not physical contact, managed to get hold of and conducted analysis on the hair. But even when through conducting analysis over a period of time, it just does break down. Yeah, but not immediate, not like, oh, I touch it and
Hmm.
it's gone. So they found silicon, boron, magnesium, calcium. And I'm thinking, where have I heard those things before? And I'm looking through reports of metamaterials. Yeah.
Hmm.
I start to see, oh, that's in the metamaterial. That's in the metamaterial. What's going on here? Is there a connection to the metamaterial of the supposed to be the physicality of the object and this? Because the objects
Hmm.
seem to be some form of constructs in many occasions until they want to
Hmm.
become physical and do gift you, of course. And we're talking about same sort of chemicals in these things, but not a person could physically make contact with it. As soon as you touch it, it disappears. It's not like it's melting in the hand. It literally just, it's gone. Now, some years back, I did a TV show for the National Geographic, and it
Hmm.
was the subject of panspermia, that there is a soup of life out in space, and that's maybe how planets get seeded with life and how they originate by meteors passing through this soup of bacterial life forms in space,
Hmm.
and it comes crashing down to Earth, spreading the bacteria out, and hence pest. Now, I attended an incident that took place in a place called Carrington in Cheshire, and
Hmm.
it was field, mostly a lot of fields there, but people locally living in houses reported meteors which seemed to have come down and actually come down in the field, actually hit the ground. I thought, okay, this is interesting. So I went out there and I didn't find any evidence really of impact sites, but I had quite a
Hmm.
few people telling me this. No impact sites. But as I'm going round, I saw these little globules. That's the only thing I can explain.
Hmm.
Globules of white, yellowy jelly. It was actually a yellowy colour, actually,
Hmm.
or yellowy greeny colour. But it was like a jelly. And I'm looking and I saw a few of these and I thought, why is that? And I'm thinking, is it? I've never seen it in a field or anything like this before, you know. So of course I go and get me gear, come back,
Hmm.
got all the science gear, start taking samples. Got it, got it in a jar. I'm going to send that in for analysis tomorrow. I want to know what it is. Now, this
Hmm.
jar is a sample jar about so big, it's about that fat.
Hmm.
And I filled it 3/4 of it and I put it on my shelf in my office and say, right, tomorrow that's going for analysis. I get up in the morning, the jar's empty, completely empty. There's nothing in it. It's as if it's taken away. It's like it never existed. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Where's it gone? You know, and I couldn't understand it. So I started doing some research and I talked to a professor, and he was actually featured in this show.
Hmm.
And some of these scientists and professors are basically saying, look, some of this stuff just phantomly disappears. And I'm thinking, well, it's not normal then, surely. I mean, did it turn to a gaseous from a liquid to a gaseous? Because I didn't notice much.
Hmm.
But weird, and I thought, okay, so I started looking into Panspermia, and there's a few of those cases all around the world where they just strangely, just phantomly disappear. It's like, here you see, now I'm here, now I'm not. So I could
Uh-huh.
never take it for analysis. I never even got the option to after doing all that work, you know? So it starts getting very interesting because I started looking into sort of the analysis of many different things. But as soon as you start getting into that, you start to realize, I wonder if they are constructs. And you just said the same thing before, exactly the same thing. You come to the same thing in your head that I did. I'm
Um,
thinking, are these constructs? Because we know constructs just can go.
yes, yes, this is exactly what Richard Pendrick said. His conclusion was emphatically, hey, we are being manipulated by another species.
Yeah,
What is that? Right?
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I have the same opinion. Now, these do appear somewhat to be constructs, and they are only as real for as long as they last.
It's
Doesn't
strange.
make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. But there's no, I don't see any references to constructs or the referencing to constructs in ancient
Hmm.
wording. I mean, I don't even know if there was even have a word for constructs in ancient wording because I was looking through all sorts of things, ancient things to see. Is there any reference to constructs? How would it be said in their language and stuff? Couldn't find anything.
The term would be lying signs and wonders.
Lines.
Lying signs
Oh,
and wonders. In other
ah,
words, yeah,
right.
they are signs, they are wonders, but it's a lie. That would be the definition of a construct to me.
Right. Okay. It gives me an angle of basically looking because I'm looking through all these things, and I came across, when looking through ancient texts and stuff, it's quite a lot
Mhm.
that we still don't know. There's
Oh
actually ancient
God, you're
texts that
right.
we don't even understand. Now, the Book of Soga contains 36 rituals, right? But nobody knows where it comes from. Nobody knows anything about the language. They have
Mhm.
identified that there's certainly rituals in there, and they're thinking we don't know. It's like who can we get to interpret this? There isn't anyone because there's not enough information.
Mm-mm.
There's more information on Sumerian, and it's only about how many people can actually do decent Sumerian.
Yeah,
Not many,
you're exactly right.
Things like there was a strange copper scroll which had writings on it nobody knows, and then I came across this Gospel of Judas.
Mhm.
Now the Gospel of Judas, which it's interesting. The Gospel of Judas, it's its own little gospel. Judas is the one that portrayed Jesus, you know, and of course he didn't want the blood money at the end of it apparently, and
Mhm.
the Romans wouldn't accept it. And it's your money, it's blood money, it's yours. And he didn't want it, and he casted it. Apparently, according to writings, he casted it, and it would have collected by numerous different people, which utilized those coins as ritual plastic. Now, in the
Mhm.
ritual practices, they were utilizing what is referred to as Judas coins. But what's interesting about the Judas book, it totally contradicts Judas
Mhm.
betraying Jesus. Like, whoa, okay, so what's going on here? And I thought,
Mhm.
okay, let's just take that and put it on the back shelf for now. Okay, I'm thinking, all right, there's lots of contradictions, which you only got to get into biblical scriptures, and you'll find things that contradicts the Bible and stuff.
Mhm.
There was a book called the Aurora Linda. That was a weird one as well. And the Ripley Scroll, which was a 6 meter length scroll, it was discovered, and it's mystical philosophy on it, but nobody really understands what it is. There is the Rornak Codex, visual representations of Christ's crucifixion. That's all they could work out from the language in it. The Sibylline book contains apparently future predictions. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, these are like a Voynich book, which is medicines and rituals. Nobody knows who wrote these things or even understands the language of any of these things because it's just lost. It's lost to antiquity.
Mhm.
But that's the stuff we've got out there. And I've just listed maybe 10 books.
Mhm.
How many books have the Vatican got? Millions. You've got to be sat on all this
Millions.
stuff. And apparently, there's even a full writing description to the Prince of Power of the Air, which was from the Apostle Paul, wasn't it? It referenced
Mhm.
Satan is the Prince of Power of the Air, whatever that's
Mhm.
supposed to mean. But there's
Mhm.
apparently even more writings on that. You know, it's just not in the public domain. Which it's just strange, mate. It really is strange. So anyway, I had a heavy session yesterday of doing research. I was thinking, what the hell? Where am I going? Where's this road taking me? You know? But I
Mhm.
did find it really fascinating about the DNA, the implants and that sort, and the skin of the implant and everything and all that, what people really want to
That
get their hands on.
that would be a real person, though, right?
Yeah.
That would be an actual flesh and blood being,
Yeah.
more than an archetype, more than a projection, more than a construct. It's the evidence that was left behind that is profound. Again, it proves corporeality, at least for that moment in time.
Well, it's that indicative of the archetypes cannot procreate, cannot breed because they're an archetype. So the only way to create a living, breathing organism is through science, is through
Right.
technologies, is through hybridization and messing about with stuff to create
Hmm.
what they want to create because they can't create it in any other format. Because you seem to got NHI
Right.
and hybrids. Now, hybrids is what? What hybrids? Is it half NHI, half human?
Or wholly human in shell and completely NHI in con I don't know. That what does that even mean? I mean, that goes into a whole new version of hybridism. But that is one of the more fascinating cases I've heard yet. It's
It
fascinating.
really is. It really is strange. I was also looking at some things that have been out recently. Now, there's a reference to Kit Green. Now, Kit Green is, and if you've heard his name, he's in the
Mhm,
highest circles in the US in regarding um, special access programs, UAP programs, secret stuff that goes on for the US government. And he's been up there and he's been up there for a long time. In the 1960s, he was messing about with Mandela effect stuff and UAP and all
mhm,
sorts of different stuff. Um, it was interesting that I met, excuse me, about 4 or 5 years ago. I met with someone, I won't say his name, but he's very high up and has been working for the US in very sensitive areas. Of
mhm,
course, I knew he would know Nick Kit Green. I'm sure he would. And we had a discussion in a bar one night, and I was
mhm,
talking about some stuff, and then suddenly he stopped, and he said, "Say that again." So I said again,
mhm,
and he said something strange. He said to me, "Has Kit Green told you that?"
mhm,
I said, "No." I've never talked to Kit Green. I know of Kit Green,
mhm,
but I've never talked to him. And I just thought, is that not a thing to say? So that's like, I'm thinking, what have you been told about? I'm talking about something which is our work. What have you
mhm,
been told about from Kit Green, which makes you
mhm.
think I've been told, by him? But he wouldn't share. He wouldn't share. But but recently there was a leak that came
Mhm.
out, and it's always good when leaks come out because, like I say, humans just cannot hold secrets
Yeah.
very well for long periods of time. But this goes back to 2017, and it was recording. They were utilizing a remote viewer or female remote
Mhm.
viewer. But when you do the checks on this person, she's kind of accredited. She's known, and believed to have certainly remote viewing skills. And she had been remote viewing a particular location very close to
Mhm.
Catalina Island, where a lot of UFO activity is being seen, coming out of the water, going in, that sort of thing. And she is on the phone with Kit Green. And it is Kit Green. He's
Hmm.
on the phone. Because I looked, I thought, can I find anything where Kit Green said so? It's definitely him. And she's telling him that I've remote viewed the location, Mr. Green.
Mhm.
I've got the coordinates, and this is the location. And they're utilizing some type of portal. I mean, I hate the word when people say portal,
I
but
know.
when you say portal, everybody knows what the damn well you're talking about. But I just hate the name.
Mhm.
It's obviously an electron diffusion region somewhere, if it's under the water
Mhm.
or wherever, but it's being utilized by the phenomenon. This is what she's telling Kit Green. And Kit Green is very interested in this conversation. And he said, "Oh, right, what's the coordinates? Where is this? Oh, right, right, okay." And I'm thinking to myself, this is interesting. Kit Green talking to remote viewers, which are looking for locations of the electron diffusion regions being in use via the phenomena.
Is February the 20th, 2017, Kay Randone here, and I'm working on case .011, and this is the case where you gave me the coordinates of 34.108.551 and 118.345179. And I have the questions here, and I can do it in two ways. I can begin by answering the questions about the event, and then go to the person, because I read for the person, I prepared in reading for the person on January 26th, and then also again on February 20th, both of those in 2017, which gives us two different peeks into the person. But I would like to give you my impression about the event.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Repeat back to me slowly the coordinates.
The coordinates that you gave me were 34.108551, and there would be a minus 118.315179. That's what's here.
Minus 118.345.
179.
Let me repeat. 34.108.551.
Correct.
Second was minus 3118.
No. 118.345179.
Got it. All right. And you said that the readings on the person were done on what the dates again? You said
January 26th,
yeah.
2017, and February the 20th, 2017. I did reading on the person that day and then today, and didn't look back to that day, when I did this one, just to give an update, because we've been working on this for a while. I just wanted to see what was going on.
What about the coordinates? When did you do the coordinate reading?
January 26th.
26 was, okay, and the coordinates and the person on the 26th.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And on the 20th, on February 20th.
All I did was the person.
Got it. Okay, now, what you suggested, I think you wanted to do is look at the coordinates or report out in the coordinates first.
What I want to do is, you said key example questions about the event.
Yeah.
Okay, and I wanted to go through that, if you don't mind.
Good. I like that. That's the way I would like it.
Okay. So you said what occurred. That was your first question. And I put down, now this I went into a deep altered state and, just wrote out my impressions. There is a fourth dimensional portal in this area, in the area of the coordinates. It's very near to the site. And the portal, which is a portal between dimensions, is related to an underwater base near the Catalina Island off the coast of Southern California. And on that date and time, a craft landed with occupants. I would say landed, I would say appeared in this dimension.
Hold. I want to make sure I write down the base, underwater base was near Catalina Island.
Catalina Island, Catalina Island.
And the next thing you said,
off the coast of Southern California.
Okay. And then the next word you said was
okay, on that date and time of the event.
Okay.
A craft, I say landed, but I would say it appeared in this dimension to land with occupants which were partly extraterrestrial and a few humans as well. So there were. Mm-hmm.
And a few humans. Okay, go ahead.
Some aboard the craft were human. Okay, that's where there was a clarification here. This particular event is part of ongoing education of influential humans about preparation for a future potential event. The future potential event is a geologic destabilization in the area. I'll tell tell you more about it in a minute, but I'm going down and answering your questions. The second question you posed was how long was the event occurrence? The event took more than 2 hours, but the witness's memory is partially blocked. And the witness does not remember the entire event. What precipitated the event? That's your question. That's the third question. Oh no, excuse me. The third was what was the cause of what occurred? And my response is there was a planned meeting between high-ranking civilian and military personnel and the others, the watchers, the extraterrestrials.
Which goes on to Hal Puthoff. And yes, we have to go there again. But Hal Puthoff states the same thing happening in a mountain in Australia. Exactly the same stuff. So it's like, okay, so Hal Puthoff's associated with a remote viewing program, as we know. So there's little bits of this, there's so much information out there kept secret, but now and again, just little things get through the gate, you know? But people keep asking me, about the same process that, we're not the newest kids on the block. We're not the first ones here. You have to take your hat off and credit people in the past. Jacques Vallée's done some work. Hynek did some work. Keel, absolutely, probably one of the best.
Incredible.
Absolutely, well ahead of his time. And I thought, I wonder if there is some actually. What is his price? I know what he's got. I've got his books, and I'm noticing that on YouTube, and I'm not the only one because people have told me, is that Keel stuff of presentations and lectures he did across the YouTube and internet are disappearing. There's hardly any of them now. Where are they all going? Why are they being deleted? Thank God I've got his books. But I thought, well, that's his books, but surely he made some personal writings. Of course, this is his diary. Yeah. And I came across a reference to his diary, right? And it says here, by 1967, I rejected the classic ET visitation model. 1960. I was born in 1967. I'm an old man now, But 1967, he realized this, the classic ET visitation model thrown out, arguing that many UFOs and entities encountering arise from non-human intelligences native to or operating through a different order of reality. Haven't we just been saying this? The same thing about reality. They're operating from a different order of reality. His ultra-terrestrial reference, which is very befitting, capable of manipulating matter and perception. Again, we've seen this. It's altering and manipulating matter as well as reality. What exists if we have to, there's nothing. There's reality and matter, and if they can manipulate them, isn't that everything? Everything.
That would be the kind of disclosure that we wouldn't want to hear.
Bombshell.
Like,
disclosure.
Forget everything you ever thought about your life, my life, free will, reality. This is something that a whistleblower, and I'm not going to hijack, what you're saying here, but I've watched one of the whistleblowers from the government talk about that if we take their abilities at face value, we're dealing with someone that could manipulate time, step in and out, manipulate matter, everything.
Yeah.
And that's
and that really
what else is there?
That really is, it wraps the phenomenon up in a complete nice little basket, doesn't it? Of all the things that people have reported over the years, and it all makes sense within that parameters of manipulation of reality and matter. It all befits. It goes on to say here, essentially, I believe they are interdimensional. Though he does reference ultra-terrestrials, but interdimensional. He did say, I did mention in Operation Trojan Horse, it's an excellent book, and you'll probably have that, an Eighth Tower, that I argued that a hidden intelligence stages waves of anomalies. UFOs, monsters, lights, poltergeists, etc., etc., across eras, seeding and steering humanity's belief systems rather than simply visiting from another planet. Steering and seeding humanity. What the hell? He was well over his time. I thought the intent could be deceptive. Oh, yes. And sometimes extremely hostile.
Right. Yes.
Extremely hostile. He proposed a superspectrum of energies that sporadically intersects our reality, creating flaps of geographic windowed areas and cyclic waves of high strangeness, including incidents like the Mothman, which he obviously investigated. This is something I personally subscribe to, though my view has some difference that more specific, but is still based on the concept of a super spectrum being present. I popularized Men in Black, which he did, and often treated them as part of the same paraphysical aspects. Not merely government operatives, but anomalous actors linked to the phenomena. Nothing like that. Something more. And then he finishes off here, but just on this quote here, that I saw a single protein intelligence. Exactly what you're saying, talking about, behind many, if not all, paranormal masks. One that exploits our expectations, crafts, appearances, and interactions with this various phenomena through windows in a larger spectrum of reality, their reality. It's like what he's saying is their reality. We live in their reality, not our
Yes.
reality. Our reality,
Ours.
we live in theirs, you know? He's saying
I
exactly the
believe him.
same things. We're putting a new, maybe modern slant on things and coming up with some new research and information. But the roots of this stuff, I'd have to say, if I had to pick one person, it would be John Keel. To say so many truths within three little paragraphs there, you know. And I tell you, there's probably a lot more to his writings out there in his diaries and stuff, which isn't public. There's probably a lot. And I started to try and find more on that, but there isn't. There's not a lot. You've got his books, but his personal. When he's writing a book, he's writing the books, but you would have his personal logs and his data and his diaries and stuff. But tiny little bits, only tiny little bits exist. But it's exactly the same thing of what he was talking about.
Always a pleasure, Mr. Mera. Thank you for
Always a
having me
pleasure,
on with you
buddy.
again. All right, buddy. You have a good evening.
All right, and you, Bal. Cheers for now.